I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here, staring at my phone, trying to make sense of what I just found out. My name's James, and I was married to Emily for 3 years. We met during college, quick story, quick love, or so I thought. She was the kind of girl everyone admired, beautiful, confident, a little bitchy but in a charming way. She always knew what she wanted, and I was lucky she picked me. At first, everything seemed perfect. We had the usual ups and downs, but I honestly believed we were solid. She'd flirt with her friends, throw little digs my way, but I brushed it off because, hey, women are complicated, right? Maybe I was just overthinking it. Then, about 6 months ago, things started changing. She worked late more often, started dressing differently, and suddenly she was more secretive about her phone. I'd catch her hiding it or quickly closing apps when I walked by. Small signs, but enough to prick my curiosity. The real trouble started about a month ago. Emily had been acting distant, snapping at me over nothing, and her excuses, "I'm stressed, work's crazy," began to sound hollow. One night, I was lying in bed trying to get her to talk, and she was dismissive, brushing me off like I was just a bother. I remember feeling a strange mix of frustration and hurt. Like I wasn't enough anymore, and I couldn't figure out why. That's when I decided to just check her phone, purely on instinct. I never thought I'd do something like that, but I felt like I was losing her, and I needed to know what was really going on. I grabbed her phone when she was in the shower and I started scrolling through her messages. At first, it was innocent stuff, work emails, some memes she sent to her friends. But then I noticed a private chat with someone named Mike. My stomach dropped because I knew a Mike. He was the best man at our wedding, the guy I trusted more than anyone else. My mind spun. I hesitated, then I read. What I saw wasn't just talking about work or some casual catch-up. It was explicit. She was telling him how much she missed him, how they both secretly wanted each other, how she'd never felt this way with me. The texts went on about how she wanted to see him again, how she was tired of pretending everything was fine. My head was spinning. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept reading, heart pounding, trying to process what was right in front of me. This wasn't just a fling or some drunken mistake. This was real, intense, and it had been going on the night before our wedding. The worst part, her excuse when I confronted her was that she was just comforting him after a breakup, that it was innocent. She called me paranoid, said I was overreacting, that I was insecure, but I knew the truth. I saw her lies, her sneaky texts, her guilty little smirks when she thought I wasn't looking. The betrayal cut deep, and I didn't know who she was anymore. How could she do this? How could she lie so blatantly? And the worst part, she still had the nerve to act like she was the victim, like I was the one overreacting. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying everything. The wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of my life, and instead, I was staring at a future that now felt like a dark, broken mess. I felt angry, betrayed, but mostly devastated. I thought I knew her. I thought she was my partner, my best friend, the girl I was going to spend my life with. Turns out she had a whole other life I never even knew about. And that's when I started thinking about what to do next. How to confront her, what kind of revenge I could get, or if I should just walk away and forget everything. I wasn't sure if I was more hurt or furious. Honestly, I didn't know who I was anymore in that moment. All I knew was that I'd lost the girl I loved, and I wasn't going down without a fight. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My mind was racing, but I knew I had to face her eventually. Emily was still asleep, her breathing even, like she had no idea what I knew or what I was feeling. I looked at her, trying to understand how someone I trusted could do something so cold, so calculated. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I decided my first move was to get some clarity, so I went through her phone again. I needed to find out if there was more to this, if she'd been lying about everything, or if she was just as deep in this mess as I thought. I searched through her messages, her emails, anything I could find. That's when I saw it, an email she forgot to delete from her trash folder. It was from Mike, sent the day before our wedding. It was brief but loaded. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Last night was incredible. Let's make tonight even more special." My stomach clenched. She had planned to see him again that night. The night I thought she was preparing for our big day. I stared at the screen, feeling like my world was crumbling. How could she lie so easily? All the times she acted like she was busy or stressed, all the times she said she loved me. Was it just a show? Was everything a lie? I couldn't stand it anymore. I needed to confront her, not just with the evidence, but with everything I was feeling. When I finally woke her up, she looked at me with those fake innocent eyes, the kind she always used when she knew she was about to lie her way out of something. "Good morning," she said, rubbing her eyes, playing the part of the caring wife, but I didn't buy it. I shoved her phone in her face and I told her I knew everything. Her face drained of color for a second and then she snapped. "Oh, come on, James," she scoffed. "You're overreacting. It's just a little harmless comforting. Mike needed me and I was there for him, that's it. You really think I'd betray you on our wedding day? That's ridiculous." Her voice was dripping with sarcasm, like I was some paranoid fool. I told her I'd seen the texts, the emails, everything. Her excuse was that I was jealous, that I was making a mountain out of a molehill, and that I was insecure. She spun a web of lies, acting like I was the crazy one for doubting her. But I couldn't buy her story, not anymore. I felt a mixture of fury and heartbreak. How could she turn this around? She was the one sleeping with our best man, and she had the nerve to call me insecure. She told me I was overthinking, that I was crazy to think she'd do something so stupid. But I knew better. I saw her messages. I saw her attitude change whenever she was around Mike. She was lying, hiding the truth behind a mask of innocence, and I was the fool for believing in her. The confrontation turned even uglier when she started attacking me, saying I was possessive and controlling, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. She told me I was insecure because I didn't trust her, but I knew this wasn't about trust anymore. It was about betrayal. It was about the girl I loved cheating on me, lying to my face, and then having the nerve to call me crazy when I found out. I felt numb, overwhelmed by a flood of emotions I couldn't control. Tears threatened to come, but I fought them off. I was angry, so angry I could barely see straight. I wanted to call her out on every lie, scream at her for ruining everything, but I knew I had to keep my cool. I told her I needed time to think, that I wasn't sure what was real anymore. She just sneered, told me I was overreacting, and said I was ruining her day with all this drama. After she stormed out of the room, I sat there alone, looking at her phone still glowing on the bed. I didn't want to believe it was real. I kept telling myself maybe this was just a terrible misunderstanding. Maybe I was reading too much into her words. But deep down, I knew the truth. She had been lying to me for months, cheating on me with Mike, and the night before our wedding, she was with him again. I was supposed to marry her in a few hours, and instead I was staring at the cold reality. The woman I loved, the woman I trusted, had completely betrayed me. That day was a blur. I canceled the wedding. I couldn't go through with it. I couldn't stand there and pretend everything was okay. Every step I took from that moment forward was filled with a mix of betrayal, anger, and heartbreak. I felt like I was losing my mind, like I was standing on the edge of some dark abyss I couldn't climb out of. I kept asking myself if I was just naive or if I'd been blind all along. The worst part, I still loved her. Part of me still wanted to believe that maybe she'd come clean, that maybe we could fix this. But I knew that was a lie. A betrayal like that doesn't just go away overnight. It changes everything. So I decided I had to get away from her, at least for a little while. I needed space to breathe, to think if I even wanted to keep fighting for this relationship or just let her go. But here's the thing. I don't know if I can ever look at her the same way again. Not after she lied, cheated, and tried to gaslight me into thinking I was crazy. I thought I knew her. Turns out I never really did. And honestly, I don't know who I am anymore either. After I canceled everything, my mind was a storm of rage, heartbreak, and confusion. I knew I couldn't stay in the same place. I packed a bag, told her I needed some time, and left. I didn't even bother to say goodbye properly. I just walked out of that apartment, leaving behind the girl I thought I knew and the life I thought we had. I stayed at a friend's place for a couple of days, trying to process everything. But honestly, it's like every moment I wasn't thinking about her, I was reliving what I saw and what I felt. The betrayal wasn't just about the cheating, though that was bad enough. It was the lies, the sneaking around, the fact that she could lie to my face and act like I was crazy for suspecting anything. It made me question everything about her, about us, about trust itself. The worst part was that I kept thinking about that night before the wedding, her message to Mike. The fact that she was planning to see him again that very night. It wasn't some mistake, some spur-of-the-moment thing. It was planned. She had her excuses, her lies, but I saw through all of it. I couldn't get the image out of my head, the way she looked at him during those texts, like he was her escape, her secret. It made me sick to think I'd nearly gone through one of the biggest days of my life with someone who'd been hiding such a huge part of herself from me. I started reaching out to some of her friends, people I'd trusted, hoping maybe someone knew what was going on or could shed some light. But most of them didn't know the full story. Emily had always been good at hiding her true self, playing the victim, twisting things around. Some told me I was just paranoid, that I should give her another chance, that I was overreacting. But I knew better. I knew she'd been lying to me for months, and this was just the tip of the iceberg. Then came the flood of memories, small things I'd ignored, dismissing as minor. Her sudden irritability, her cold shoulders, her dismissive attitude whenever I tried to talk about us. I kept asking myself, had I really missed all the signs? Or was I blind because I loved her too much? The more I thought about it, the more I realized I'd been fooling myself. I'd always thought she was just stressed, just busy, just a little bitchy sometimes. But underneath, she was hiding something much darker. I remember sitting in that apartment, staring at the wall, feeling absolutely helpless. I was angry at her, furious at Mike, and worst of all, I was angry at myself for not seeing it sooner. How did I miss the clues? How did I ignore the glaring red flags? And then the shame hit me. Was I just a fool for loving her so much? Did I deserve this? Every question led to another, spiraling into an endless loop of doubts and pain. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just sit there and let it eat me up. So I started planning my next move. I needed to confront her again, but this time with a clear head. I wanted answers, no more lies, no more bullshit. I needed to know how deep this went, how many times she'd lied, and most importantly, if there was any part of her that still loved me. Or was she gone for good? I also realized I had to set boundaries for myself. I couldn't keep torturing myself with the idea that maybe, just maybe, she'd change. I'd been naive enough already. This wasn't a mistake or a misunderstanding. It was betrayal on a scale I'd never imagined. I had to accept that. The question was how badly I wanted to hold on to what we had, or if I should let go entirely. Every hour I spent alone was a new wave of pain. I'd see her face in my mind, remember her smile, her lies, her betrayal. I'd think about the wedding, the vows we made, and how she'd thrown all that away for Mike. The entire relationship felt like a lie now. Everything she told me, everything she pretended to be. I felt like I was losing my mind, like I was stuck in some nightmare I couldn't wake up from. But deep down, I knew I had to face the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I was broken, angry, but I was also determined. I wasn't going to let her ruin me completely. I'd lost a girl I loved, but I hadn't lost myself yet. The next step was figuring out how to pick up the pieces, how to rebuild or move on. That was the hard part, the part I wasn't ready for yet, but I knew I had to do it. I had to confront everything head-on, even if it shattered whatever hope I still had left. After a couple of days of wandering around in a daze, I realized I couldn't keep running from this. I had to face her again, confront her, demand answers, and get closure. I wasn't going to let her keep lying to me, spinning her bullshit stories. I needed to hear it straight from her. So I reached out, told her I was coming over, and prepared myself for whatever she was going to say. When I got back to that apartment, the atmosphere was thick with tension. She was sitting on the couch, looking defensive, lips pressed tight like she was ready for a battle. She tried to act innocent at first, throwing out the usual gaslighting lines. "I don't know what you're talking about. You're making a big deal out of nothing. Or you're just insecure." But I cut her off. I laid everything out, the texts, the emails, the fact that I knew about her plans to meet Mike again that night before our wedding. Her face twisted like I just punched her in the stomach. She scoffed, obviously trying to save face, and then in a breathless, bitchy tone she said, "You're overreacting, James. This is what?" Think, Mike was just there for me. I was just comforting him because he was upset about his breakup. It meant nothing. You're so damn paranoid. You want to control everything, don't you? That's why you're acting like this." I stared at her, disbelief and fury boiling up inside me. I told her I wasn't stupid, that I saw her messages, her lies, and her reaction. She started throwing insults, calling me possessive, jealous, and insecure again, like she was trying to turn the tables. She said I was making a mountain out of a molehill, that I was twisting everything, and that I was the real problem because I didn't trust her. It was a game. That's all it was. A sick, twisted game where she lied and manipulated, pretending to be the victim when she was the one cheating. I could see right through her. I told her she was a selfish bitch, that she had no idea what love even meant, and that I didn't want to be with someone who thought she could screw around and then lie her way out of it. Her eyes flashed with fury. "You're just jealous because Mike's better in bed than you. That's what this is about, right? You're afraid I'll leave you and find someone who actually cares. Well, too bad. I don't want to be with some insecure fool who doesn't trust his wife." She spat those words out like venom, and I felt like I'd been punched again, but this time in my pride. I told her I was done. Done with the lies, the bullshit, and her pathetic attempts to gaslight me. I said I was leaving, that I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. Her face went red and she started crying, fake tears I knew, trying to make me feel guilty. But I just walked out, not looking back. I knew this was the end of the line. Whatever hope I had left was gone. That night I stayed awake for hours, replaying everything. All the heartbreak, the betrayal, the lies. I kept thinking about the girl I loved, the girl I thought I'd marry, and how she'd used me as a fool to hide her affair. I was angry at her, yes, but mostly I was sad. Sad that I'd been so blind, so naive, that I'd trusted her more than anyone else in the world. And then I started thinking about revenge. Not in a reckless way, but in a way that made me feel like I still had some control. I wanted her to see what she'd lost, to feel the pain she'd caused me. I didn't want her to get away with this, not without paying some kind of price. But I also knew I had to be smart about it. Because if I just lashed out without thinking, I'd look just as bad as her. I spent the next few days trying to come up with a plan. I knew I needed to gather more proof, maybe expose her to her friends or family. I wanted her to see how much she'd hurt me, how badly she'd damaged everything we had. And I also had to decide if I wanted to fight for what was left of us or just walk away for good. The pain was unbearable, but part of me was still clinging to the hope that maybe, just maybe, I could get some justice before I completely lost myself. But one thing was clear. I couldn't stay silent. I had to do something. Because I refused to be the fool anymore, to be the guy who was played and left in the dust. I was done being naive. This betrayal had changed everything. It had shattered my trust, my sense of security, and probably my heart. I didn't know what the future held, but I knew I wouldn't let her win. Not without a fight. The days that followed were a blur of planning and emotional chaos. Every time I thought about confronting her again, the rage would surge through me, but I knew I had to keep my head cool. I couldn't afford to make any rash decisions that might blow everything up or make me look desperate. Instead, I started digging deeper, looking for more concrete proof, trying to find out how many times she had lied or how far her betrayal went. I reached out to a friend of a friend who worked in private investigation. I didn't want to go full detective mode, but I needed some reassurance that I wasn't overreacting or losing it. The guy was discreet, and within a couple of days he had some footage of her sneaking out late at night, meeting with Mike at that same restaurant they went to during our supposed stressful week. The footage wasn't grainy, and I saw her clearly leaning in, whispering, holding hands. The investigator confirmed what I already feared. She had been lying to me every step of the way. The next step was the confrontation I'd been avoiding. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay, especially after I saw the proof. I decided to do it in person, face to face, no more hiding behind texts or emails. I needed to see her reaction, her real face when she realized I wasn't going to take her lies anymore. So I showed up at her place unannounced. When she opened the door, her eyes widened when she saw me standing there with my bag, my face a mixture of anger and heartbreak. She tried to play innocent, acting like she didn't know what I was talking about, but I cut her off immediately. I told her I had proof, photos, videos, witness accounts, and that I knew everything. Her mask cracked for a second and I saw pure panic in her eyes. Her response: She flipped the script again, acting like she was the victim. She threw her hands up and said, "You don't understand, James. I was just feeling overwhelmed. I never meant for any of this to happen. I swear it was a mistake and I was going to end it but didn't know how. I loved you, I still do." Her voice was trembling, but the words felt hollow. I could see the manipulation behind her eyes, the way she was trying to guilt me into forgiving her, like all that mattered was her feelings. I couldn't take it anymore. I told her she was full of shit, that I saw her meeting with Mike, that I knew she'd been lying to my face from day one. I pointed out everything, the texts, the emails, the footage, and asked her how she could even look me in the eyes and deny it. Her answer was a barrage of excuses. It was just sex. It meant nothing. I was just confused. She kept insisting she was sorry, that she never meant to hurt me, that she'd been weak, that she loved me but she just lost her way. But I wasn't buying it. Nothing she said could undo what I knew. That girl I loved was gone. What I was left with was a stranger, a liar, someone who had used me as a pawn in her sick game. I told her I was done. Done with her lies, her fake tears, her empty promises. I told her I was leaving and never coming back. When I turned to walk away, she burst into tears, begging me to stay, saying she'd changed, that she loved me, that she couldn't live without me. But I knew better. Love isn't just words or tears. Love is trust, honesty, respect. And she had shattered all of that. I couldn't stay with someone who thought so little of me, who had so little respect for what we had. I left her standing there, crying and pleading, and I felt a strange mix of relief and heartbreak. I'd finally seen her true face, and I knew I could never go back. That night I slept in my car, on a friend's couch, anywhere but that place. The pain was raw, but I felt a strange sense of freedom. I'd uncovered the truth and I'd taken control. I'd learned that trust is fragile, that love can be poisoned by lies, but also that I had the strength to walk away from it all rather than stay and be humiliated. Now, I'm just trying to put the pieces back together. I don't know what healing looks like yet. All I know is I'll never forget what happened, and I'll never let someone use me like that again. The betrayal cut so deep, I don't think I'll ever fully trust again. But I also know I have to keep moving forward. The worst thing you can do after something like this is stay stuck in the past. I've learned a lot about myself, about what I'll accept and what I won't. And honestly, I don't regret seeing the truth. It hurts like hell, but it's better than living a lie. It's been a few weeks since I walked out of that apartment for good, and honestly, I still feel like I'm in some kind of emotional shambles. The pain of betrayal cuts deep, and I won't pretend I'm over it. It's going to take time. But at the same time, I feel a strange sense of clarity I never had before. The truth crushed me at first, but now I see it as a kind of liberation. I finally faced what I needed to see, who she really was, what I deserved, and most importantly, that I'm better off without someone who could throw away everything we built just for a moment of selfish pleasure. Looking back, I realize how naive I was to think love alone could fix everything. That girl I loved, she was a facade, a mask I never really peeled away until the last moment. Trust was the foundation of our relationship, and she tore that apart with lies and secret meetings while I was planning our future. I used to think marriage was about commitment, about loyalty. Now I see it's about honesty, something she was never willing to give me. I've had to rebuild my life from scratch. I've thrown out most of her stuff, deleted her from my social media, and I've started focusing on myself. I've gone back to therapy, not just because I need help processing what happened, but to learn how to trust again. I know I'll never forget what she did, but I also refuse to let her define me. She's just a chapter in a story I'm trying to move past. Revenge. Honestly, I never really wanted to hurt her physically or destroy her life. That's not my style. But I wanted her to feel what I felt: betrayed, humiliated, heartbroken. I think I achieved that by exposing her lies, by walking away with my head held high. I want her to realize she lost someone who truly loved her, someone who would have done anything for her, even forgave her early on when I probably should have walked away sooner. The biggest lesson I've learned is that love is fragile and betrayal can shatter everything. But it also teaches you who you really are. I've learned to trust my instincts more, to listen to the red flags early, and never ignore the gut feelings that tell you something's wrong. If you're in a similar situation, I'd say, don't be afraid to face the truth, even if it hurts, because hiding behind lies only prolongs the pain. Right now, I'm focusing on healing, on rebuilding my confidence, my sense of self. I don't know what's next for me, but I do know I won't settle for anyone who doesn't respect honesty and loyalty. I'll take time to heal, to find out what I want, and to rediscover who I am without her. I guess what I want anyone reading this to take away is this: betrayal can break you, but it also can make you stronger. The pain is real and it's justified. You're allowed to feel hurt, angry, and lost, but don't let it define you. Stand up, face the truth, and move forward, because life is too short to waste on people who don't see your worth. I may have lost someone I loved, but I found myself again. And that's the real victory.